I'm always intrigued by the first reading that we heard from the Old Testament, Moses and the burning bush, probably because I'm not a very good gardener, and I would probably want one of those bushes in my garden that no matter what happens, even if fire got to it, it wouldn't be destroyed. You don't have to do a lot of stuff around it. And it's interesting, if we reflect on that, the burning bush, Moses wasn't that far from Mount Horeb, the mountain of God, and he wasn't looking for God. At this point in Moses' life, he was taking care of the sheep of his father-in-law. And he was doing what he should be doing during the day for anybody who works. He was watching the sheep, making sure they weren't going here, didn't go there, making sure they got water, making sure they were transferred back and forth, going on that. And all of a sudden, as he looks up and he turns a corner, he sees this burning bush. And then a stranger thing comes around it. He's looking and he gets closer to it. And out of the bush comes this, the invitation, Moses, come here. And he says, here I am, Lord. And then he says, take off your sandals because you're on holy ground. Now what's interesting about that, in that particular moment, the way the scripture is written on that time, that call of Moses, he affirmed, probably not really thinking about it, he affirmed that the Lord was calling to him because he said, here I am. He didn't say, oh, maybe I drank too much last night and this is not happening, or maybe something else is going on and I'm just seeing things. He had enough trust in what he saw to say and believe that it was the Lord, and he said, here I am. And for those who don't know, taking off your sandals is a Middle East tradition of respect. That when you take off your shoes, when you walk into somebody's house and stuff, it's a sign of respect for them. I remember all the time. I think my mother always did it. You're not going to dirty the carpet, so we got the stuff in the hallway. Take off your shoes and to go through the back and all that. But what it was a sign of respect that she didn't have to clean all the time. But it was the sign of respect. And when he said you're on holy ground, I was thinking about that. How in our lives, maybe especially during this Lent, as we're just doing what we normally do during the day, maybe we've had a burning bush experience. Maybe not seeing a burning bush, but having somebody ask us something that causes us to think. Maybe somebody inviting us to be with them in a difficult moment and to take off our shoes and to be present to them in a way because they've invited us on the holy ground of their suffering or their insecurities or their doubts or in one of their tragedies. And do we have the courage to say to them, here I am? And the reason we could say here I am is because what the Lord said in his name, I am who am, is exactly what when in our baptism we had said, our parents had said yes to us, or we live out for our baptism, that we believe that the I am who am is present in me and in you who are baptized. That there is a connection that we have in our lives that is kind of like acknowledging the burning bush in my life, that part of me that is hopefully consumed with the presence of the Lord in my life, that I could say to others, here I am, because I could open myself and reveal that heat, that fire, that smoke, that love of when we see a fire, that there's a different presence going on in our lives. One of the commentaries that I read during this for this gospel this week was interesting because it talked about how the call of Moses was God breaking into the life of the Israelites because they were suffering. They were captives in Egypt. And the Lord needed to be in a hurry to help his chosen people from Abraham, to get into their lives in a special way, and he chose Moses as his spokesperson going forward. And one of the commentaries says, well, does that mean that how is God present today in all the suffering? And he does a little reflection on the Ukraine. God with Moses, they did miracles and they had the plagues and they got free, but then if we study the history of the Israelites that getting into the promised land, there was all kinds of ups and downs, and there were prophets and stuff that were called, and they had a very rocky relationship. And what I thought was interesting, and today, if you didn't get the memo or whatever, today we will have a second collection today for the Ukraine, and we're going to funnel the money. The sisters of the Felician sisters who are in our parish, they have a convent in Ukraine, if I'm not mistaken, and one near the border in Poland, and then we will funnel the money through them. So you could give today, or you could go online. Stuff's online. But what this commentator said is, well, just maybe the way God is answering the suffering is moving us to generosity. And that kind of hit me. A lot of times, or how many times have we thought, why is there suffering in the world? Why doesn't God do something about that? And this particular author said, well, maybe he does when we respond like he wants us to do. When we take up the mantle and we work for justice and we share our goods and we're kind to one another and we bring people into our midst and we don't judge and we try to make peace in the world. Maybe that's God's taking away suffering in the world and making it better. So today on this third Sunday of Lent, in which we could reflect upon the burning bush, how is it that my life in the Lord is afire with love? And how do I share that love to put into practice my faith?